Welcome back to Midwest eSports Formula One Division 1. Tonight we are in week 2 in Imola, a track that I don't believe we have covered yet, and we didn't get to watch it this season either as it was rained out in real life.
Now, I believe this was one of the last tracks that they raced last year before we came into the league, but I do have a 3D print of this track with accurate topographical changes. Elevation changes, courtesy of your 3D printer. So thank you very much for that. I stare at it every single time I go to race in my office here. But yeah, this is definitely one that we hold near and dear to our hearts, as well as all racing fans everywhere. Imola is just one of those great tracks that everyone knows and loves. But yeah, to call a race here, it feels a little special. I know it's in the grand scheme, it's really not. But race number 2 here feels like a holy grail for us here at Nick and Mitch.
It's another one that I think it was one of the first tracks I played. I think we did Bahrain, and then you showed me Imola because it was your favorite. So it was very frustrating at first with the bathtub section and then coming up to the top of the hill and the real tight chicane I wasn't good at. But going back to it, it is a lot of fun, especially the first sector. There's just so many sweeping corners that if you hit them just right, you feel incredible.
Yeah, you said it. This is one of those tracks where it is so daunting. It is so difficult to just pick it up and go. My dad's first time on a sim rig, I sat him down at Imola, thinking the same way. You know, this is a track that everybody knows and understands, but watching it, enjoying it that way, and actually driving it are two completely different things. You really need to take your time and learn, study, memorize Imola as well as you can, because there are some very quick corners that just you need the muscle memory. It is not a reaction thing. It is just a pure timing, muscle memory, action response, especially the chicane following the bathtub section that leads you down into sector 3. So very challenging points here, but we also have some amazingly long, very fast straights. We're going to get some awesome DRS action here today, hopefully, and we will be seeing some wheel-to-wheel racing for sure. Imola always delivers on that front.
And it's just one DRS section, I believe, at that finish line, but it's a very long straight and it has some turns to it too, which makes it a very good spot to overtake, and also interesting because you have people coming out of the pits at the same time. So it's a race to that very first, I think it's a sharp left. After you get past the pits, you do a couple smooth turns and then you got a sharp left, sharp right, and there's a lot of times where you can go off into the sand.
Well, we did have a couple of drivers who showed up in the Division 1 standings last week that were very unexpected to people who aren't involved in the actual leagues. I'm talking none other than Ryan Rods drove a Ferrari last week in Brazil and placed podium through qualifying, held the lead through most of the race, and then lost it at the very last moment. I don't want to overshadow Gott Palmer's phenomenal finish on that race, but Ryan Rods came in, showed a more than impressive showing in race number 1, and it has earned him a seat. He is now a full-time driver for AlphaTauri here in Division 1.
And this is going to be an interesting one too. I've been reading through the chat from the drivers earlier on today. Aero Racing didn't realize they were doing Imola until just an hour and a half ago. He thought it was Vegas week, but you're a week early for that, buddy. And then Scarenzi just being straight up honest that the new Call of Duty dropped, and so he has not really practiced this track. One of the big, I won't say problems with esports, but when a game like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or Fortnite goes back to the original map, when they drop, 99% of gamers are playing them and they don't have time to get those practice laps in.
No, but luckily Scarenzi, I don't know if he really needs those practice laps, if we're being completely honest. Of course, you want to have them as much as possible, but to say that he needs them to perform at his caliber, I think that might be a bit of a long shot. We did have a last-minute cancellation on behalf of Cake Thomas, who is just real sleepy today. So Cake did not think he would be able to perform at his best tonight, so has decided to graciously bow out. Hopefully he's joining us on the live stream. Hopefully our sultry voices and the voice of these 19 V6 hybrid engines will lull him into a very nice long sleep tonight.
I could at least, I keep him awake for just a little bit. Those nice screaming engines. Good, I'm being honest too, and just if hey, I'm too tired. It's Thursday night, work week. If it's the end of your work week or close to it, I get that feeling sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just, we were falling asleep last week on the streams. We both had long Thursday nights. So hey, if you think you're gonna not finish or you're gonna crash into other drivers, sometimes best to just step aside.
Oh, I hear that 100%. I wish the people that I was go-karting with last night followed that mentality of, hey, if I'm not going to perform at my best, I should just probably let these guys go by. Had some trouble jamming up in some very crucial corners yesterday at go-karting, but that's for a whole different stream. We are live in Q1 and only with just over 15 minutes remaining in the session. This is you heard it, the one and only qualifying on the night. So what they place here is what they will start the race in just about 15 minutes. We are on board now with Electric Blade setting a time in the Haas.
And before you get too far away from the go-karting, you did set the fastest lap of the week, I believe. So that's sim racing. Even though you're not fast in sim racing against me, hey, you're fast in real life in a go-kart.
Shit, throwing bombs in between compliments. Okay,
What's that, a compliment sandwich?
Yep, sure is. You nailed it. Yeah, I did. I set an 18.012. The rest of my team, the rest of my company was setting around the 19-second, couple 18.5s. Yeah, I beat the fastest lap of the week by 0.2 of a second. So look at this. Look at this. You can't see my face, but it is smug.
We're not going to show it again. We do have 2 times so far. Electric Blade setting a 1:16.5 and Bacon in the McLaren with a 1:15.5. Most of the drivers are now either on their out laps or their flying laps, so we'll be getting more times rolling in here soon.
Yeah, before we threw it to Bacon setting the fastest lap, Aero Racing takes him by just about a second with 1:14.819. Sharia Coleslaw also moving up there in the Red Bull. Bacon now in third. Bacon is one of the stewards, the head steward, I believe, of D1 Racing this season. However, Houdini will be out for today's race, as you can see, obviously. So Bacon is filling in. That's a reserve role for McLaren as, again, Houdini unavailable for today's race.
Do you think he just did a magic trick and can't come back?
Anyways, he can't dislocate the shoulder.
Yeah, we'll move fast. Scott Palmer, who won last week at the very end, throwing it from downtown. He sets a 1:14, so he now has the fastest qualifying. And then Aero Racing, who thought it was Vegas week, is in second place.
The air quotes over here. Yeah, Aero Racing definitely throwing it down. I wonder, Vegas is not a very technically involved track. You don't need too much to get through a cycle in Vegas. But I wonder if those very few pinch points did prepare him a little bit for Imola. Of course, he's probably racing a different car setup, but, at least the feel. At least he got to drive a bit.
Yeah, driving always helps, right? And it's an interesting track. You do have some similar corners. There's a lot more straights. We also had GSR Edwin, who finished third last week, was temporarily in third until Ryan Rods, who finished second last week, moved up into second. So right now we have Scott Palmer and Ryan Rods in the same place as they finished last week, and then GSR Edwin very close in fourth.
Yeah, I was very confused when I checked the driver's standings before tonight's race, and I saw Ryan Rod's name in blue and white instead of red. As Ryan was in a Ferrari last week filling in, is now in an AlphaTauri, but he is still able to put those times up as we watch Callie Robb go just a bit wide down there in the Ferrari, back once again with Race Day, who's currently down in 16th. But both of those Ferraris have a great shot. We know Callie Robb is wonderful in qualifying, so we'll not count him out for at least a top 10 finish today.
And I just noticed that he is racing for AlphaTauri. I didn't catch that in the updates.
Right?
So now that's interesting because he threw down some mega points for Ferrari as a team, and he also has some great points as a driver. But now for AlphaTauri, he's going to have to try to fight back up to Ferrari, who's leading the Constructors' Cup.
To beat his own points that he gave them. Yeah, I know. It was a little bit of a cluster. A little bit of a mind blow there before today's race. We see Gunner going slow on the outside there. Looks like nothing's wrong, just giving way to some faster cars on their pace laps. It's all well and good. We are back under green.
And as MMR Sui pulls into the pits, we have VTech in the Mercedes coming out. We have someone blowing the whistle, either a race engineer or a fan up on top of the paddock.
Typically, they confiscate those at the checkpoint, at the security checkpoint, right? With noisemakers.
I guess it depends on the Grand Prix and where it is. I know some of them really encourage the noise.
Some of them encourage smoke bombs as well in the second turn.
Or having Martin Garrix just play music for 3 hours during the middle of the race. I heard that one was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, that one sounds like a blast. You're driving by at 200 mile an hour. Sounds like the street out front of my house.
I say it has to feel like sim racing at that point when you just have someone pumping music over the microphone in the team chat.
Lando has a direct line to him in the center of the track. All right, mate, this next lap, I'm going to need animals. Pull up animals. You got it, bud. One of my buddies, just quick departure here from the race. One of my buddies is a big-time raver, and he was in Miami, I believe, for some sort of festival, and sent a picture of the Martin Garrix set, and right next to him up on the stage behind the DJ, the turntables, was Lando. Sitting there and just chilling with Martin Garrix. He saw one of my posts of watching or riding Formula One, and he's like, "Oh, I never told you that I was partying with Lando the other night." What on earth? Apparently, Lando and Martin are like just two peas in a pod.
Why not? That would be just a wonderful partnership to see them out partying. I also saw that Netflix next Tuesday they're doing a live golf tournament with 4 pro golfers and then 4 of the F1 drivers. So there'll be teams of 2. They're doing a live tournament, I think streaming on Netflix or streaming somewhere else, but sponsored by Netflix. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Yeah. I know for sure Carlos Sainz and I think Lando Norris are 2 of the golfers. Maybe Pierre Gasly, and I'm blanking on the 4th.
It's going to be interesting regardless. I'll have to check that out. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm just hearing that for the first time right now. We have a caution in Sector 2. That's not going to stop Electric Blade from trying to set pace here. Currently back in 13th place, and he is off the track.
That's going to add a couple seconds to this qualifying time. He might go into the pits and change out those tires. It might be everyone else is going into the pits, putting on those final sets of tires to set down some faster times, and it looks like Electric Blade will do that as well after covering those in some grass and sand.
It do how it be sometimes.
I spent a lot of time in the sand in this track in Sector 1 when we were first racing, and I think one time it turned off, or I turned off traction control or some sort of assist, and driving the car was abysmal.
I was going to say, this is not the track to turn off, to try no traction control, no ABS. This one is brutal, and compared to Brazil, with how wide open some of those features are in Brazil, this one is a wee bit more narrow, a little more technical of a track. That's not disparaging Brazil whatsoever. Both of these tracks are powerhouses on the F1 calendar, but definitely bringing different skills to the table, forcing drivers. Oh, we just might have seen Fireballer. Somebody just almost went wide. This is a difficult one to rein in regardless.
And I don't know how that's going to play out, but I just saw Ryan Rod's got a 5-place grid penalty for blocking. Don't know if that was in the pit lane or not. That would be horrible if that does turn out to be true. I know sometimes they can reset the positions before they start the race, so we'll find out. But if not, that hurts because he is qualifying so well in these first 2 races.
Yeah, and not saying that I want to see this happen, but we have yet to see Ryan Rods really have to push through the grid. He qualified top in Brazil and then held the lead for most of the race there, pending a couple pit stops, but he then regained the lead again. So it will be, really sharp pit entry there by race day, but guess whatever works. But yeah, it will be very interesting. I'm very interested to see how Ryan Rods controls this Alpha Tauri through some traffic if he is unable to just get himself back up in front of the pack.
And we're watching Scarenzi, who has been chipping away at his time, but only by 5/100ths of a second after Sector 2. Going into Sector 3, he's going to have to pick up just a bit more time. Could be fighting his way up into 5th or 4th, and it looks like he's going to stay out. He might have been pitting. And he does move up just into 4th above race day.
Hey, for playing Modern Warfare 3 all day, coming over to this cold 4th place, not a terrible spot to be. We're on track with Lancey now up in 3rd place. This Red Bull has been showing pace. He had a decent race in Brazil, but he is looking for a podium finish here in Italy. Touching that gravel, it's going to slow him up just a little bit, but not enough to torch the entire lap. If he's able to keep it clean through the rest, he may see a good time. Talking about good times, first place, Ryan Rods now with a 1:13.8 over Gott Palmer, just under a second slower. Ryan Rods putting on the Jets.
I feel like he did that last week with a mega gap between qualifying where his pace was pretty much untouchable. And Red Bull, you were talking about Lancey currently in 4th place, Shreya Kolsla down in 12th. They've always been a very consistently good team between 5 and 12. I really want to see them win one of these races. We almost had it where they pulled off a very long, short tire stint in one of the races, and we're pushing that car forward. So I'm just hoping that it happens sometime.
Yeah, it will. They're both destined for this. I mean, not only are they riding the Red Bull, but like you said, they are so consistent that it is bound to happen. Now, whether or not that is pure speed and pure strategy or some incident, a yellow flag brings them back together, they get DRS at the right moment as someone touches the grass, who's to say? But I don't believe we will leave this schedule in season 11 here without a Red Bull victory. You can quote me there, and we'll check back in 13 weeks.
I am going to quote you there and see exactly what happens, but consistency is always key, and we do have a lot of DNFs. We had 5 or 6 DNFs last week. I got it right here in front of me. I should have just looked over here. We had 6 DNFs last week, and it was a sunny race, right?
There was. I don't feel confident enough.
No, there was rain. We talked about them having problems sliding around.
Yeah, and Haas goes wide into the sand. Electric Blade again, not able to hone in where it counts here. We'll see if Electric Blade is able to hold on through this race as he goes wide again through the gravel once more on his last set of tires for Q1 and only here. But yeah, there definitely was some weather in Brazil last week. It's looking like we're going to have a clear day here in Italy.
I did get word that we are having a full dry race today, so we will get true pace from all of these racers.
Beautiful. Love this. We have some of the drivers in the paddock chat going back and forth talking about Ryan Rods and the blocking penalty. Ryan saying he wasn't blocking, and others are unaware of the situation. So yeah, like you said, we'll have to see. Yeah, I guess this is just a racing incident. This is a game incident. The stewards typically won't restart and reshuffle the lobby if there isn't a crash or something, a connection issue. Pretty much just you race what qualifying gives you, and we'll sort it out later on. So we may see some amendments towards the end of the race, before next week's race. We may have some steward findings that give him some seconds or another grid position up to account for that if he truly was not deserving of any sort of penalty. But Ryan Rods still sitting on top of this pack. That's not going to be good enough for a pole start. He will be 5 grid spaces back. So to sit first place right now is physically as good as he is going to get. Gott Palmer looking like he may be sitting in the top seat to start this race, leaving Brazil on the podium and showing up in Italy here in front of the pack. But we have plenty of the other drivers on their outlaps ready to try and test that time. We've got Palmer 1:14.3. Let's see if anyone can get him.
Yeah, and we saw Nikki, or Felice Nazaro, go a little wide up on top of the hill. Didn't see any penalties come. We'll see if his time does count. He's currently sitting in 11th place. And most of our drivers are on their final out laps to set their final lap. Looks like Gott Palmer, Scarenzi, and Aero Racing have all started what could be the final lap. And Nikki has moved up to 7th after that lap. That's a lot of laps.
Nicky is notorious for changing his name for a historic driver from the city or the region or the country that we are racing in. If you are unfamiliar, Felice Mazzaro was an Italian race car driver, native of Turin, Italy, where the 2006 Winter Olympic Games were held, I believe.
Yep.
He won the Prix in 1907, as well as the French Grand Prix in 1907 and 1922. And Tara Florio in 1907 as well. Big racing guy over there, Felice Mazzaro. So a little bit of turn of the century racing knowledge for you there from Italy with love. Ryan Rod still sitting atop the podium. Gott Palmer in 2nd place. He will assume, pending nobody else beats his time, Gott Palmer may be starting this race on pole, followed by Race Day and Scarenzi closing out the top 3.
And we do have Race Day already well above his time after just Sector 1. So that, well, it looks like Gott Palmer improved his time. So now with this spread, Race Day would stay in 3rd place, but he still has all of Sector 3 to finish. And it looks like he did set, or someone set, a very fast Sector 2.
Yes, these drivers have found the rhythm, thankfully, before the lights go out. We're just watching GSR Edwin go a bit wide, little squirrely there on the final lap of the day. Callie Robb closing in 4th place, Race Day in 3rd. Callie Robb, pending what Scarenzi's able to do here, Callie Robb may take the 3rd spot on the grid. Ryan Rod setting yet another fastest lap.
He is just cooking out there. Aero Racing about to cross the line and moves up into 8th place above his teammate Nikki.
Phenomenal pace. Scarenzi heading into the pits will likely, right? I'm confused. GSR Edwin Scarenzi may be trying for one more lap. They're not going to have enough time to get that done here.
I believe that shows up if they don't cross the finish line, but they pull into the pits. But it's going to be their final lap at this point. So everyone has completed their times, and we have GSR Ryan Rods with the fastest time, but potentially with that 5-place grid penalty. So it could be Gott Palmer up on top. And those two drivers last week, we had Gott Palmer taking victory at the very end from Ryan Rods, but for most of the race, it was Ryan in first.
Still to this day, I am still confused as to how Gott Palmer found so much speed to overtake Ryan in the final corner of last week's race. Just a phenomenal showing from the Williams driver. But like Mitch said, we will have to wait and see what that grid looks like whenever we switch over to it, whether or not Ryan Rods will be back those 5 positions as we see on the screen right now, or if he will be corrected and be the rightful pole holder. 27 seconds remaining in the lobby before we switch over. So without further ado, it's time to get today's racing action started here on Nick and Mitch. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the heart of Italian motorsport, the legendary Imola circuit. Nestled in the beautiful countryside of Emilia, Romagna, this iconic track has a history steeped in adrenaline and excitement. Imola has been a racing mecca for over 60 years. Named in honor of the Ferrari family, this circuit is a true test of man and machine. Daunting corners like the infamous Acqui Minerali will force drivers to keep a laser focus tonight, but on the other hand, make it through the gauntlet and you'll find the long straights to provide optimal wheel-to-wheel racing and plenty of overtake opportunities. This is a circuit for drivers and fans alike. Imola, quite simply, is that track. It may only be race 2 on the season, but that's no excuse to set the cruise control here tonight. Today, the league's best drivers will take on the ultimate challenge, aiming to etch their names in the spreadsheet of MidWest eSports history.
And after a thrilling race in week 1 in Brazil, we have the first Constructors' Cup standings. Ferrari is on top with 98 points, followed by Alpine and Aston Martin tied for second with 84. Red Bull is in fourth with 80 points, Alfa in fifth with 70, Williams in sixth with 60, Mercedes sits in seventh with 53, and McLaren in eighth with 31. Both Haas and Alfa Romeo are sitting at 0 points though. Ferrari's Ryan Rodz made a huge impression in his Week 1 debut. Now with AlphaTauri, last week he qualified pole position and led most of the race before finishing second, and he's now enjoying that full-time Division 1 seat. Williams' Scott Palmer scored a surprise victory in Week 1, overtaking Ryan Rodz in the final straight to win the race by just 9/100ths of a second. Mercedes had a mixed week with 1 DNF and 1 third-place finish, and he was the spark for Mercedes, who will be hoping to build on that this week. We also had Haas and Alfa Romeo with double DNFs in Week 1, so they'll be hoping that both cars can go the distance today.
Lights Out is up next. From Imola, this is MidWest eSports, Formula 1, Division 1, on Nick and Mitch.
Man, we made it through that.
Hey, that was a mountain. We climbed and we conquered.
And it was just in time for the formation lap, too.
It's almost like we timed that out.
A little too much. But you have to be close to the real broadcast, right?
Yay. That is what we're striving for here. It's what we've always strived for. And yeah, I think we do a pretty good job of it. But enough patting ourselves on the back. Let's take it to the track. We are in formation, and Scott Palmer in the Williams finished first place last week in Brazil in a thrilling last lap, last corner overtake on Ryan Rodz in the Ferrari, filling in as a replacement driver. But today, driving as an anchored Division 1 racer for AlphaTauri. He finished with the fastest qualifying time, but will be forced to take a 5-grid penalty. Wow, what are we saying? A 5-grid penalty due to a track blockage that he had coming out of the pit lane. Right now, we are sitting Scott Palmer with Race Day and Cali Robb, both Ferraris behind the Williams, and Scarenzi in fourth place to close out the first block.
Yeah, we were talking about that grid penalty could hurt him a little bit, but he can move up very quickly depending on what kind of start he gets, and there is a long straight off of the starting line. It might be one of the longest that I can think of, where you have quite the distance from launch before you get into that tight turn 1.
Yeah, this is a full sprint down there. You know, it is one of those tracks where you kind of just grip. You kind of just clench a little bit as you head into turn 1. A disaster can absolutely strike at a moment's notice following this straight. But exciting racing nonetheless. We're going to see what Ryan Rodz is truly made of back there in the Baby Bull, starting in 6th place. That second row, GSR Edwin and Ryan Rodz, followed by Lancey and Era Racing. Nicky in the other Alpine, and Cynical, followed by Bacon, a reserve driver for McLaren today. Light work in the other AlphaTauri, Sharia Coleslaw, Sui, Fireballer, Scavney, VTEC, Gunner, and Electric Blade closing out the pack. Electric Blade having those issues, multiple spin-out issues into the sand in qualifying. The lights are on in Imola. There we go. Lights out. We are racing week 2, season 11, Formula One Division 1 Midwest eSports on Nick and Mitch. We are underway with movement already in the middle of the pack. Bacon making his way up. Scarenzi able to get past Race Day into third. Race Day takes it back through the first chicane. It is still a Williams, 2 Ferraris, and an Aston and in front.
And we have a caution flag, but it all clear, maybe just a little bit of wheel to wheel. And Ryan Rods has already moved up into 4th place, jumping over Scarenzi and Edwin.
GSR Edwin now passing Scarenzi. There was a bit of back and forth with Ryan Rods, but like you said, he was able to take 2 positions up already in lap 1. We saw our tire strategies for just a brief moment, but it's hard to look away from this action. Imola offering just heart-pounding racing in every turn. Here we go through Acque Minerali, the wonderful bathtub section into that final chicane of Sector 3.
We'll have to see if anyone has to go into the box from that caution flag from damage, but I am impressed with all of the drivers keeping it clean throughout Sector 1. This one is a bit more open, but it's not a fun one to run off the track because you're hitting sand or a lot of grass, and it's hard to get back onto the paved road.
Yeah, not an easy track whatsoever. You lose that racing line and you lose everything. Got Palmer setting fastest lap, the 1:19.2, setting that pace for the rest of this pack. Got Palmer shot out of a cannon. It's like he never even stopped from Brazil. Straight on here, straight to lights out. He is off, literally off to the races.
And we have a Ferrari lockout in 2 and 3 after taking home first in the Constructors' Cup, getting the most points. They are now sitting in prime position, but Ryan Rods is going to be behind them. Here are the tire strategies. Once again, we could see a medium to hard or a soft medium. And we can check out what our drivers are rocking. Almost everyone on the medium tires to start.
4th place, Ryan Rods closing in on race day right now in that Ferrari. He was closing it to almost 1/10 of a second. Ryan is already sniffing at the podium. We're not even into lap 3 yet.
Well, he's going to fight back hard for that, and everyone's on the same tire, so for now he should have the same tire strategy. It'll be interesting to see if they all go to hard or if someone does go medium and soft at some point later on. Bacon on soft. We do have Sharia in the Red Bull, who loves to go long distances on tires on hard, and then VTEC in the Mercedes also on hard.
God Palmer shaving 2 seconds off that fastest lap, followed by Ryan Rods and GSR Edwin. The 3 of them said, yeah, I see ya. Let's go.
And Ryan Rods jumped over race day, so he is now in that podium position. He is 1 second behind Cali Robb, but DRS will now be open. So by the time he gets to the finish line around this lap, he might be in range and will have plenty of reduced drag in that car to make his shot, make his overtake.
This dude is fast. We have caution in Sector 1. Looks like Electric Blade having some issues.
Ooh.
Retires from the session as we have carnage in Sector 1. 2 drivers able to recover. We're going to see if there's any damage, looking like Scavney and potentially Lightwork were caught up in the rubble there. But Electric Blade in just the 3rd lap of this race. We are now under safety car as we clear Electric's car from the grid. That is yet another DNF for the Haas. Week 2 out of 2.
This is not good for those 2 teams. We already had Alfa Romeo, Cake Thomas, not able to race last minute, and now MMR Sui missing all of his front wing, hoping that there's no underbody damage that has to retire him from the session. And then we do have an AlphaTauri mixed up with Lightwork and Scavney as well, and with none of that wing, is unable to do the chicane. Hoping we don't have to see retirements, because that could be, again, no points for both of those teams.
Yeah, that is so unfortunate. I wonder if it was a setup issue, what was going on, but it just did not seem like Electric's night here from qualifying into now, coming through the radio. Woohoo! I love racing, with a very, very upset smiley face from Electric. You hate to see it. You got to feel for these drivers. No one wants to crash out, especially in the 3rd lap of the race, but it happens from time to time. And yeah, sometimes you just aren't ready for that track. It happens, whether that was machine or man. Stuff happens, as they say in the biz.
And Interestingly, just on lap 4, we had several of the leading drivers, Scott Palmer, Race Day, and I believe Aero Racing were all up by the top, went into the pits for hard tires. They're not going to try to go 28 laps on hards, are they? Because you would
Uh,
think you would maybe go into, if you're still trying to do another stop, you wouldn't do hard tires. I don't know. I don't know enough about the tire length on this track.
right.
If that's what they're going for, it would be a very interesting finale because Callie Robb, Ryan Rods, and GSR Edwin and Scarenzi all stayed out. And Lancey and Red Bull moved up into 5th and Sharia up into 8th.
The pack is split here. Got Palmer moving down into 10th. Like you said, we could see something phenomenal towards the end of this race, or that could be a mistake. Very easily could be a strategy, a missed strategy call there for that handful of drivers. But only time will tell. We are still waiting to clear up most of this debris still under yellow as the safety car makes its way around the track. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Better than we did in Brazil, though. We at least got a couple of laps in before we deployed the Aramco, the Aramco safety car.
Did that happen in the fake race this race last week too? I'm thinking the real race also had a safety car right off of the bat.
I might be confusing it with real life, but we definitely had a
It's hard to
safety
tell
car.
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because we watch this and then we watch the real race and one of them gets a red flag, so it's hard to tell which is which sometimes.
It was phenomenal last week because, we were watching the real life race and it seemed like they were having the same issues that they were having in the game here. And then we had some phenomenal overtakes in the last moments of the race. Very, very telling of MidWest eSports last week. So I'm not sure. Do we have a crystal ball that we're watching right now? Are we going to see something here? Is one of the Haas going to spin out next week in Imola? I'm not sure, but we may have some predictions, some storytellers here, some voodoo going on here at MidWest eSports.
Well, thankfully, we won't have an Imola next week for these drivers to pull out their voodoo, but Vegas will be interesting because this race will happen before the first ever Vegas race, so we might see some things that we will then pick up in the race if you stay up till like 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast to watch it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Definitely going to be DVRing the Vegas Grand Prix against my better judgment. The safety cars in this lap, drivers were warming up those tires, especially those mid-pack. Got Palmer Race Day, Aero Racing, Bacon, who switched to the hard tires at the start of the caution. We're going to see if that strategy pays off for them. But Ryan Rods in second place with that Alpha Tauri, looking to close the gap on Callie Robb here as we set pace on the finish straight. We are under green once again. Lap 6 begins from Imola.
And Ryan Rods is closing that time already. Scarenzi also behind him. I think he's going to run out of room before this first chicane, but man, Callie Robb did not get quite the escape or the runaway that he was looking for.
It is just phenomenal watching Ryan take that much speed into these corners. I mean, he's making up some serious time at the beginning of the apex. And look at this, an overtake attempt. Not even through Sector 1. Ryan is not going to be able to get it there, but there's a couple other spots that he can try to get past that Ferrari. Will he do it now? He is trying, and he's done it. Ryan Rods runs Callie Robb off the track as he takes first place. Callie Robb, and they go wheel to wheel. They're back and forth through the bathtub. And it's Ryan Rods coming out on top as they head into the chicane. GSR Edwin now overtaking Callie Robb, and we have significant movement back in the grid. Gunner dropping down a few positions, letting Race Day and Aero through.
And we have Scarenzi overtaking Callie Robb, and now Lancey is looking for that opportunity too. We got a little off track in that wheel-to-wheel racing, and I don't know if that impacted the car or the nerves or what happened, but now Lancey is going to have the opportunity to move up into 4th place. I still believe we need one more lap before DRS will open for these cars, and we might see even more shakeups.
I mean, most of these drivers are under, if not very close to a half a second different of one another. It just shows how important it is to run a clean, even-tempered race here. Callie Robb by no means spun out or did anything wrong. He was just pushed off in a racing move. GSR Edwin looks like there's an incident with the Mercedes as he's dropping positions non-stop left and right. GSR Edwin just shaving back into the pack. I wonder what happened there. He was sitting in second place and just all of a sudden just dropped like a lead balloon. But yeah, one mistake right there from Callie Robb, from GSR Edwin, one tiny slip up, and you are in a completely different ball game than what you were, heading into that corner, heading into that straight. This track is that demanding. You need to be as close to perfect at all times and able to finish where you want to and even want to compete. Got Palmer now on the rear end of Sharia Coleslaw heading into the finish straight. He is under 2/10. We may see a push from Got Palmer to get around this Red Bull here as we straighten out.
Yes, and DRS is enabled, but he might not even need it to fully pass by. Looks like it might come online in the next lap. So I think once they cross, Ryan Rod's crossed the finish line, that's when it popped up. He is now in first place in the race. So he was able to climb those 5 positions very quick. But we do have several of the former leaders who did a pit stop for hard tires. So they might be pulling a strategy and might be back on top in about 10 to 15 laps.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see how they manage that, how they make that happen. Because, of course, they are going to have some significant tire deg toward the end of this stint on these hards here. So we have to see how all of that plays out. But it's looking like it's working for Got Palmer. Cynical now moving down, Race Day moving up, and Gunner moving down another position 2 as VTech and Lightwork are able to get by. Something may be up with the McLaren. I am not sure what's happening as we have Gunner then moving 2 positions back up. Lightwork now sitting at the back of the pack.
Yeah, it looks like we had a little bit of moving around, and the McLaren was almost at a stop, unless that was just the tight chicane. But we do have DRS. Lancey is going to try and make his move. Got Palmer makes his move on Nicky. Lancey jumps over Callie Robb and will be able to hold him off going into the first corner.
It's phenomenal movement as we see these drivers starting to gain pace. Nicky does not want to have the last, or Nicky will have the last word. Got Palmer and Nicky going back and forth, swapping spots as they're bookended by both of these Ferraris. Got Palmer able to take 5th as Nicky once again staring at the back of the Williams.
Those 2 pink liveries were throwing me off because they're close but not quite close, at least in the right sunlight. But they were holding quite the spread, and it looks like Got Palmer is now closing in on Callie Robb as we head into Sector 3.
Race Day able to get by the Alpine there for 6th place. And the Alpine once again overtaken by the Aston Martin of Cynical. Not sure if Nicky has run into any aero issues, any mechanical issues, or again, if he just lost his pace because Nicky is slowly making his way down through this pack. Now, Fireballer will have a chance to get through on DRS.
Yeah, a lot. We have Got Palmer going past, or trying to go past Callie Robb, but he also has DRS.
Got him.
It's going to be tight going into the corner, and Got Palmer's going to have it, but can Callie Robb catch the better line? Doesn't look like it.
Got Palmer is whipping this thing around the track tonight. He looks absolutely, I've said it 5 times already. It looks like he was shot out of a cannon. We have a spin. It's Nicky in the Alpine coming in through that sharp right-hand corner, right-hand turn. Just sent it a bit too much, went full beans there, but that's not what we needed. He is now sitting in 18th. Thankfully, there were no collisions. Just a harsh snap of oversteer there as he spins the back end out and throws his car into the sand. We'll see if he takes a pit to try and get any damage fixed. Lightwork now retiring from the session. Not sure what was going on there, but we are now one less Alpha Tauri out on track.
Looks like Nicky just went past him and he was off track, maybe in the wall. So that is now going to be an AlphaTauri out of the race, but we do have one on top right now, and these guys are going into the pits. Are they going to have enough time to pull out in front of the others who pit? I don't believe so. Now that's going to be interesting on this, at least on the strategy side. I'm sure they're going to pop hard tires on here too.
Absolutely. He got Palmer back in the pits, who just put on hards for that short stint, but is now switching back to mediums. Seems about right. But yeah, shake up there as AlphaTauri bites the dust here in Italy. That one is unfortunate. We're going to have a paddock chat here in just a second. Yeah, light work coming in over the radio. I can't believe my luck. My gosh, Wi-Fi is not great, so I'm lagging and I spun. Got full orange underbody and side pod damage. GG's everyone. Can't wait until I can get my Wi-Fi fixed. We feel for you there on the connection issues there, light work. Well done. You know, you tried to hold it as well as you could, but unfortunate there that we had pretty critical body damage, you know, underfloor damage and side pod as well. That is not a raceable vehicle. And AlphaTauri is just going to have to settle with one. Boy, you want to talk about trying to climb that mountain. Ryan Rod's getting those penalties, getting the points last week for Ferrari, now trying to climb the mountain to bring his official team, Division 1 team, AlphaTauri, back into contention. And it's going to be hard with one hand tied behind your back.
I think this is where it'll get interesting. We have the people who pitted in the first safety car: Bacon, Fireballer, Aero Racing, VTEC, Sui, all now on 7-lap tires. VTEC on medium tires, everyone else on hard. And then the rest of the pack, except for Scavney, are on fresh tires, a mix of medium and hard. So if these hards are able to hold out the entire time, then those top 4 drivers are going to lose a bit of time to the rest of them, and they're going to have to fend them off.
That water break was sponsored by Brita. Thank you very much. We are still under safety here in lap 12 now. Those drivers, you know, as the safety car progresses, does it get a little easier, a little more, just a little more, I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's a little nicer for Bacon and the top 4 there with those 8-lap-old tires. Running under safety, not under speed. They're not really chomping through these tires. It might let them hold those lanes a bit longer than if they were racing under full pressure right now.
That is true. They won't be chewing through them nearly as fast. You won't see them weaving and trying to keep these cars nice and smooth. It's going to be a gamble. I don't know how those tires will quite age. Medium tires are all an interesting call because they should have to pit, I would imagine, although Shreya Coleslaw is on medium tires, and I could see him dragging those things until you see the rims beneath the tires.
Is he dragging the floor? No, those are his rims.
Yeah, that's extra grip. Who knew?
There he goes.
Just chewing through the pavement and, that perfect friction coefficient.
Well, someone definitely has no regard for their old, hard tires. That is Bacon in the McLaren up in first place right now. He is getting ready to send it as hard as possible. Here we go. We are back under green. Lap 13 begins from Imola. We are back under racing. Only 17 cars left on the grid as we have a ton of movement. Sui is down in the bottom, back in the pits, and Nicky in the Alpine is moving down the grid once again as Aero Racing gets up into second place past the Williams of Fireballer. Got Palmer and Race Day, everyone moving up as Scarenzi moves down into 10th now.
Yeah, I just saw Scarenzi drop several. He's dropping another down into 11th. Not great starts for them. I didn't see if there was any contact. I didn't see anything flare up. And Bacon, of course, still able to hold on to that first place, and he has over a second gap, so that might help him out going forward.
Scarenzi, what happened?
I don't know if we'll get a text from him mid-race, though.
Yeah, probably not.
Unless you get the pit stop, and then he might, send a quick update. Sometimes the drivers like to do that.
Yeah, he accidentally started another lobby in Modern Warfare 3, and he heard the beeping to get ready for the drop. Distracted him for just a second.
He got booted in the gulag. That's caught.
He's just sitting in the gulag now. Well, he is in the gulag for sure in 11th place, but he's definitely under DRS, so he's going to try and push Sharia a wee little bit there. That Red Bull with those tires that we will be grinding down to a nub later on. Got Palmer now moving past a Red Bull. He will join his teammate up in 4th and 5th now. Both the Williams sitting pretty atop the grid.
We also had Ryan Rods getting past Fireballer, and I saw a couple sparks, maybe just a tap on the wing and the tire. But I was about to say it seems to be all good for those drivers, but Fireballer is now slipping down a little bit. I wonder if his wing got damaged from that tap with Ryan Rods, and there's certainly something after that one.
I will be surprised if Lancey is not called for the stewards for that one. That looked like a very deliberate bump. I'm not sure. It didn't look like anything in the racing line would have forced the Red Bull to take that sharp left that booted Fireballer into the grass there. But I could be wrong. And again, what you're seeing on stream is not necessarily reality, as we are on a connection just as everybody else. And sometimes the game shows you things that didn't really exist. But if that was real, that was not great.
Yeah, it almost looked like the car with the damage just, couldn't take the turn tight enough. And then, maybe other driver couldn't see him. So we'll find out. Aero Racing has now moved up into first place, and Ryan Rods is closing in on second. So Bacon in that McLaren held on for a while, but now he is starting to slip back into the Wolves.
DRS is now enabled for these drivers, but we have a caution in Sector 1. That may be Sui way back there as he took a pit. And we have another car spun. Who was that? We see one of the McLarens. It's Bacon from first, potentially to last, as he is stuck in the grass as a spectator. The replacement driver in the McLaren will be starting back, or will be continuing this race back in 16th without a front wing. Looks like they're going to have to visit the shop here very briefly to replace that, which will give Sui some time to catch back up to this pack. Sui dipping into the pits just at the green start, at the restart here, following the safety car that Lightworks DNF triggered. But Bacon does not look... Oh, no, I apologize. We are under safety car once again. Debris on the track, presumably belonging to that McLaren.
We also had Ryan Rod sending sorry mate to Bacon in the chat as he was driving the car around the corners. So you could see the wheel was a little bit jerkier as he was sending that text message. And that's what we did see. I don't know how much that affected, but we do have Bacon now down in 16th. And a little bit of a lockup from Ryan Rods. Yeah, and now Palmer was slipping down. They may have just been trading places, or the timing got out of sync.
Yeah, as we watch the effects of Ryan Rods texting the paddock chat while he is actively driving a Formula vehicle. This is a great time for our weekly PSA. Hey, don't text and drive. Just don't do it. Real life in the sim, don't do it. All right? Hey, don't do it. This has been a PSA from Nick and Mitch. Thank you very much.
I was going to tell my fun story at the end of that last safety car when I mentioned the frictional coefficient. Have you heard the villain story of how Adrian Newey came to be?
No.
When he was, I listened to a podcast, I think the Formula One interview with him.
Okay.
And I believe in grade school over across the pond, so I think elementary school, his teacher asked, is friction a good thing or a bad thing? And most people said a bad thing. And Adrian, little Adri, said it can be a good thing depending on what you're looking for. And they all laughed at him. And now he is one of the top aerodynamic, probably the top aerodynamic mastermind in the world, because you do want that certain level of friction, and you want to make sure that it's stable when you're like accelerating, braking, all the downforce. You need that certain amount of friction. And so he was trying to say, without friction, you wouldn't be able to stand up. You'd slip, you'd fall. And everyone's like, no, friction's a bad thing. It slows everything down. Look at him now.
You look at him. Where are they now? That also seems like a very trick question. Like, the phrasing of that question.
I've heard
leading
science
as well.
teachers ask that question, because I think ours did in high school, because you need friction to stand or to come to a stop in a car.
Right.
But he said his teacher laughed at him and told him he was wrong.
Well, who's laughing now? From their mansion and their presumably massive garage full of every supercar imaginable. Yeah, good for him. Good for Adrian. We are still under safety car, lap 17 here from the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix in Imola. We had Bacon in the McLaren spinning out, dropping one of the front wings. Does not look like he is DNF. He's not out of the race, so we will see a return from our head D1 steward, playing replacement driver today. He doesn't get a lot of chances to race up in Division 1, so he's taking it, and he is pushing it as hard as he possibly can. Thankfully, didn't take anybody else out, ruin anybody else's shot at points. But definitely Bacon here is here for a short time, not a long time. He's here for a good time, not a long time.
And we did get a message from race day saying, this race is banging. I would love to hear that in a real race on the radio pop up with the doop. This race is banging on the radio.
Honestly.
And then Ferrari would be like, yes, we are checking.
We can confirm this race is banging.
We'll look into it.
What is that? You hear a banging?
Question.
Yeah, this would be a wonderful race to get your ticket to. You're definitely getting your money's worth seeing all of these cars at low speed, just kind of parading around the track. Have a bit of gum up here at the bottom of Sector 3, but here we go. We are under green once again. It is full steam through the finish straight. Let's try it again. Lap 18 from Imola. We are back under racing in Formula One Division 1 Midwest eSports. His Aero Racing Design leads the pack in his Alpine, followed by the absolute juggernaut Ryan Rods in the AlphaTauri, Race Day, and Gott Palmer in the top 4.
And we do have the next Ferrari, Callie Robb, in 5th place. So again, just massive team points at this point in the race for Ferrari.
Oh, Ryan Rods tried to squeak it out around the left-hand corner. He was able to get it, but Aero Racing going to try and push back. Sorry, Mitch. That was wheel-to-wheel. We're still wheel-to-wheel. Ryan Rods breaks free. It's now Aero Racing and Race Day going back and forth. Gott Palmer's now going to try his hand to best the Alpine. Aero Racing losing tons of speed as Ryan Rods just wedged his way through. Race Day picking up the pieces, reading those tea leaves, and getting by, making it happen. Ryan Rods now leads the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix.
Gott Palmer was like the third kid trying to stick his hand in the cookie jar, and just
Me too.
with the arms there was not enough room to get that hand in, so he backed out for now. But he is holding it nice and close to Aero Racing Design.
These 4 drivers, I mean, you could just see Ryan Rods as he was heading through those first chicanes into that sharp left-hand hairpin. Gott Palmer now getting past Aero Racing Design. You can see Ryan Rods' AlphaTauri almost hunting Aero Racing Design. Just the way, how aggressive he was taking those corners. This is a man on a mission. He is the newbie in this pack, and he is definitely making his presence. He's making his presence. Sorry, burp. Known. Finish. Full period. Stop.
I was about to ask if you were okay there. We did have Scavney not quite okay, and he was spun out. A caution flag was thrown and then cleared, but he is now 13 seconds behind the pack. This is Callie Robb sneaking up behind Aero Racing Design, but look who is back in the battle. Scarenzi in the Aston Martin, and then GSR Edwin closing in behind.
You didn't really count him out, did you?
I know. With all these different pit stops and where they came back out in the pack, I haven't seen his name in the top 5 for a little bit, but I imagine with him, GSR Edwin, they'll be pushing their way through pretty soon, especially once DRS becomes active. I believe after this round the track, we will have DRS.
Yes, that sounds about right. We have some fastest laps coming through now. Got Palmer reclaiming fastest with a 1:17.063. DRS now enabled. Mitch, you called it on the nose there as we see Callie Robb getting past Aero Racing. She's going to put Scarenzi in an ideal position to try and get by the Alpine, but he may not have pace just yet. Closing the gap, but he's not quite there. Gaps are increasing throughout the pack as we see GSR Edwin, Scarenzi, and Aero Racing as the closest threesome on track right now.
We do have a 3-second gap between third and fourth, so they are starting to separate from the pack, but I believe, yes, again, they have some of the older tires out there. Aero Racing with some of the oldest, 16 laps, and we have a virtual safety car. What just happened?
I am not sure. We know that Scavney is well behind the pack, so that was not an injury that put him back there. I'm not entirely sure. We may have had a brief spin. Check everyone's front wings. Let's see what just happened there. Virtual safety car in lap 20. Yeah, there we go. There's a front wing missing from Scavney in the Haas. He is 26 seconds behind the pack, but something must have happened back there. That is unfortunate. Sui getting a drive-through penalty for speeding under virtual safety. Scavney in the Haas needs to pit, get another front wing, and the strategy should change to just finishing this race. There are 11 laps remaining. Haas is sitting with 0 points in the constructors, in the drivers right now, from their double DNF last week in Brazil. So let's just get a Haas across the line. We're seeing the game saying that Nikki has left the session. Not sure if that was a fluke or not. I guess time will tell, but the Alpine of Nikki may be in trouble as well with connection issues.
We'll see if his position starts to slip. Typically, AI will take over for a little bit to let you try and reconnect if you have to. And then he could drop out if he is unsuccessful in that. But sometimes those messages pop up a little weird. One nice thing about the virtual safety car is that we are back. We don't have to go around a few more laps. But yeah, I'm surprised, maybe not too surprised, but some of these drivers with the gap could have gone in for some soft tires. Let's see if anyone did at the bottom.
They're still
Scavney did in the Haas. He had some significant work on his car, though, too.
Yeah.
Some of the leaders could have dipped in, I would think.
Hey, as fast as, and as hard as these drivers are pushing here, we may very well have another safety car. And if we do see another yellow flag deploy, I would be very shocked if then they did not decide to duck in for softs. But they'll be able to finish the race on mediums or hards regardless. It's just a matter of who needs to really catch up and make up pace. Some of these drivers may be hoping for another safety car here towards the end, as we are now 10 laps to go from Imola. We are down in the bathtub with our race leaders. We are on board with Ryan Rods as he's trying to close the gap to race day. He's just under half a second, unable to really do much there. Got Palmer is just patiently waiting behind Ryan, potentially looking to take a double overtake like we have seen Got Palmer and Aero Racing do all too often here in just the first 2 races of the season.
Looks like GSR Edwin's having some trouble with that chicane at the start of Sector 3, too. He's picked up another time penalty for track limits. We do have Ryan Rods opening up DRS and whipping around the outside of race day and just taking that position and continuing on.
Well, 9 laps to go. We'll see if Ryan can hold it for this one. He had a commanding lead over the Brazil Grand Prix, but then was overtaken by Got Palmer in the very last second, and with how close these 3 race leaders are driving between one another, we may very well see something similar to that in the closing laps of this race. Don't count any of these 3 out. That one is going to be thrilling to watch as we move further down into the pack. Callie Robb closing on Scarenzi, seeing if he can make something happen past the Aston Martin, getting up into 4th place. Try and get closer and closer to his teammate up there in second. But he's not going to be able to do it there. Scarenzi holding firm. A 5-second difference between 4th and 3rd.
There are a lot of half-second gaps at this point in the race, and that's getting close to what you can close off in this DRS zone. Problem is there's a lot of drivers all with these gaps, so all of them will have DRS. Callie Robb will not, or Scarenzi will not, because he's 6 seconds behind 3rd place. Everyone behind him is going to have DRS open, so that's going to be a bit of a battle for him as all of these drivers, just look at them, try to attack on the inside. And from behind, it looks like, I think that was GSR Edwin just pushing into the rear of Scarenzi a little bit, but I think the cars are okay.
We had a lot of movement there between 9th and 8th. The 2 Red Bulls swapping positions. Lancy overtaking Sharia. Aero Racing GSR Edwin going through there. And Callie Robb was able to finally move past Scarenzi. He is now sitting in 4th place, pushing Scarenzi back into 5th. But that gap to the first 3, to that podium, increases by 2 seconds. It is now a 7-second gap between Gott Palmer and Callie Robb. Those front 3 have just definitively pulled away from the rest of the pack. It is now a mid-pack battle for the rest of these drivers.
We talked about that, or talked about Lancy going on the medium tires, but he is pushing that time up and pushing positions. Everyone else on 13-lap hard tires or mediums above him, so he might have pace over the last 7 laps.
Oh, Lancy was absolutely looking good as he overtook Sharia, and now Aero Racing looking to close that gap on GSR Edwin. We have another penalty for Sui. That's the second one of the day. This one's just a 3-second time penalty, though, not another drive-through incident like we had before. But we also saw Gott Palmer up in the front 3 overtaking Race Day. It is now Ryan Rods and Gott Palmer, followed by Race Day. Wait a minute. I think I've seen this before.
We're going to be a battle at the finish line. I believe they have different tires too. Ryan Rods has more longevity. Gott Palmer has the faster tires. So again, we could see Gott Palmer just sniping that win at the very end.
If this happens 2 races in a row, these drivers may very well fly to meet one another at an undisclosed, middle location, neutral location, and just have a slugfest. They may just start swinging if Gott Palmer is waiting to the last minute to just pop a hole in Ryan Rod's tire. Not for 1 race, but 2 now, as he holds just over half a second behind the race leader. Gott Palmer trying to do a repeat of Brazil here in just the 2nd race of the season. This is going to be interesting, but phenomenal to see 2 other drivers taking this mantle, as Scarenzi has been fighting as he overtakes and moves up into 4th position past Callie Robb, has been fighting between 4th and 7th place here for these first 2 races. Very interesting to see our 4-time champion that far back in the pack to start this season.
We'll have to look at some of his previous season's records. I know in a lot of sports, the champions have that little sophomore slump where maybe not that you celebrate a little too hard, but you just won, so that I don't want to say the drive to win again isn't there, but
it's fair.
You're coming back into the season, you're on top, you're feeling pretty good. He was playing Call of Duty, hasn't been practicing the tracks, where maybe as he's pushing further into the season, he's running lots of reps on tracks and really fine-tuning these setups.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder anymore. He doesn't have anything to prove. Came in halfway through the season, commanded that victory, and said, all right, I'll let you guys race. I'm going to have some fun back here. Lancy on those brand new, well, as close to brand new as we can get, as far up as he is in the pack, getting a 3-second penalty there for track limits, pushing just a wee bit too hard, trying to catch up to GSR Edwin, though. He is under a 10th. We're going to see an overtake here under DRS. Lancy moving up into 6th place, trying to crack that top 4. We'll see if he can get past Callie Robb. He's made up this time before. We could very well see it again.
And Race Day just picked up a 3-second penalty. So Well, he has a 9.5 second lead over Scarenzi, so I don't know if that'll impact his finish unless we get another safety car and that gap closes. So he'll be safe in that position, but it'll be hard for him to move up at this point because those drivers are all separated by about 1 second, 1.5 seconds. So even if he got into first, I think he'd still finish in third.
It is just baffling that these front three drivers have put on another 2 seconds. From the race restart, they had a 5-second gap. It is now up to 9. These three have just completely pulled away from Mr. 4-time back there in 4th place. He would need a miracle to get up there, but he only needs to close 6 seconds of a gap in 4 laps.
Well, it could happen with the DRS. It could happen right now as Ryan Rods goes easily past, or Got Palmer goes easily past Ryan Rods up into first. This is one of those things, though, where these drivers are so close and that DRS strip is so long. Do you do that now or do you wait until the last lap? And you do have race day right behind you, so you can't just wait and play a game of chicken because he could easily overtake you and just make your job impossible. So we could see a lot of trades with the final laps to go. There won't be DRS going into the finish line, though, like there is in Brazil, where you have enough time to really make use of DRS as you cross the finish line under the checkered flag. This one you'd get maybe 20 meters, and that's not enough.
If I am Ryan Rods right now, like you said, I'm trying to prevent race day from getting a double overtake opportunity, which means I can't really be fighting Got Palmer, wheel to wheel. I can't be going back and forth any kind of shenanigans. I need to sit back, wait, get the pace that I need, wait for DRS, and strike in one fell swoop. There's no guesswork. There's no attempting anything. You need to make it happen, or you're going to risk race day picking up that 1 second gap that you've put on him and potentially putting you back into third place. But definitely we've seen speed and we've seen great pace from Ryan Rods in the opening sector here. You can see through that chicane, trying to close that gap. He has the number of this first opening sector. We'll see if it's enough. No, Got Palmer is able to hold it clean, actually gaining some time on Ryan through that section that Ryan has just been an absolute assassin in through the rest of this race. Further back in the pack, Bacon moves up past Shreya Coleslaw and Fireballer. We had a brief caution, and VTech now goes fastest on softs with a 1:16. He's absolutely flying.
There it is, going for the softs. Are they brand new, or has he been on them for a while? 2 laps. So some of these drivers down at the bottom looking to take 1 point for their team and for themselves by setting some fastest laps on soft tires, while the rest of them drag these medium and hards through their lifetime. And we do now have Got Palmer and Ryan Rods with a 2.5 second gap on race day. So it's going to be a battle at the finish line for both of them. It's tough. If you're Got Palmer, do you try? Oh, here we go.
Here he goes. Ryan Rods trying to take the inside line here. He's going to get him into sector 1 here. Ryan Rods retakes the lead with 2 laps to go. It is an absolute dogfight at the top of the order. Ryan Rods putting pace and swapping almost exactly for the same distance as Got Palmer had him, leaving this sector just 1 lap ago. Almost exactly. Wow. Phenomenal move there by Ryan. Again, there was no faffing about. He kind of just did it, made it happen, got through it, and moved on to the next.
This is tough because Got Palmer is going to, with DRS, if he keeps it, maybe take over for lap 31, but then Ryan Rods is going to take over for 32 and the final. So if I'm Got Palmer, I would activate DRS, try and go around the wide side, but then not pass, force Ryan Rods to have the worst driving line, but still let him get in front, so then you get the DRS overtake on the final lap.
Yeah. And if you're him, are you holding your electric boost for later on ERS? Or
I'm using the DRS just to keep up with Ryan Rods right now and maybe shake him mentally a little bit, but not overtake him, and then using it all on that final lap.
Oh, Ryan Rods able to pull away on the finish straight. Got almost a second between the two. But we are now back. Ryan still increasing the gap ever so slightly. He's about a tenth faster than he was last lap. GSR Edwin looking like he is leaving the session, closing out in 14th place. Unfortunate for the Mercedes back there, but Ryan Rods now just over half a second in front of the Williams, putting on an absolute show here in that AlphaTauri. First it was a Ferrari, now it's an AlphaTauri. It doesn't matter if Ryan Rods is behind the wheel, you know it's going to be fast. Got Palmer, little bit of slip there, heading out of Aqua Minerale.
And they're both on the same lap, tire-wise, but Got Palmer's on those medium ones, so his pace, you saw it, he's sliding around. He's now 0.6 of a second. It's going to be tight. I don't know if DRS alone is going to get him past unless he has a hot exit on this corner, which he had a pretty good one, but he's holding about 0.6 of a second. So then it'll come down to that energy, and I just don't know if the tires are fully there.
Yeah, I am not sure. Well, he's definitely going to be giving it all that he can here. It doesn't matter anymore. These tires are toast after this lap. We are on the final lap. It is an absolute dogfight between Ryan Rods and Got Palmer. It's a repeat of Brazil in race number 1. They're through most of the technical bits of Sector 1, and it is still Ryan Rods on top, gaining almost 0.2 from the previous lap. That AlphaTauri is absolutely on fire right now as we head into Sector 2. We're back with Scarenzi in 5th place, looking to overtake Cali Rob. Will he be able to do it on the out of Sector 1? He will not. Cali Rob is going to beat him up the hill. The AlphaTauri will remain in 5th.
And it also looks like Got Palmer has a 3-second penalty and race day, so even if he passes Ryan Rods, it'll be, for the finish line, getting the fireworks first. But I think if that penalty holds, unless it's something that the stewards could remove, it wouldn't matter. But Ryan Rods has that 1 second gap.
And here we go under DRS. As we approach the line, it is Ryan Rods for his second race of his Division 1 career and his first win as well. Just 2 races in, and we already have a new contender. It's Ryan Rods in the AlphaTauri, followed by Got Palmer. Race day, Cali Rob, Scarenzi, Cynical moving up with Aero Racing past Lancy, who will now sit in 8th place in front of his teammate Sharia Coleslaw. Fireballer is the next across the line with another 3-second penalty. We are waiting to see VTech, Bacon, Nikki, Gunner, Sui, and Scabney all finish across this line. 2 minutes to go. We are not going to be on a time technicality here. All drivers will be able to cross the line in plenty of time. But Ryan Rods, what a phenomenal run. I mean, we have one of the AlphaTauris dipping out light work with some incident midway through today's race. And Ryan Rods taking that torch and running with it as best he can. We may be seeing another Scarenzi and who was his teammate last year that was light work. It just had a snap of bad luck again. But one side of that team is strong today. Ryan Rods, once again, was once a replacement driver, is now full-time for the AlphaTauri. VTech getting driver of the day, says the game. Keeping it nice and clean there. But the story of the day, of course, is the baby bull. There he is. Under the Switzerland flag, Ryan Rods stands atop the podium here in Imola.
It's got to be good for him coming up into D1 officially, coming up as a replacement driver, winning, and then almost winning by car's length, and then getting a full-time seat and winning again.
It has to feel good that he was going up against Got Palmer at the very end of today's race, just like we saw back in Brazil, but he was able to get almost a second of a gap. I believe it was more than 1 second gap in front of Got Palmer in the final lap of the race. That has to feel wonderful for the AlphaTauri again in an AlphaTauri instead of that Ferrari. I know we're running equal performance, but it still plays with your head just a wee little bit. AlphaTauri's got some wheels.
And Ferrari, 3rd and 4th, so they're going to remain on top of the Constructors' Cup. Aston Martin's going to break the tie with Alpine with finishes in 5th and 6th. And then Red Bull, consistent as always with an 8th and 9th place finish.
We also finally see points. Haas was able to crack the leaderboard. They put some points on the board. Scavney finishing today's race for the Haas garage. Yeah, and that was quite a fun race. Imola always offers plenty of just phenomenal. It was great. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. That was a wonderful race to watch. It was a ton of fun. We had a couple more safety cars than I would like. You'd never want to see 3 cars bowing out, especially that early on in the race, but it happens. It's all well and good, and hopefully we'll see those drivers rebound, come back stronger next week from Vegas.
Yes, that's going to be exciting under the lights. I know they do the Monaco under the lights in this league, so I'm excited to see that later on in the season. But Vegas, you really can't beat just the look of the track. We'll see how the driving is. People with all the straights, small corners that they don't expect it to be a dogfight, but we'll get a good preview of that with this race. See how impactful those straights and those DRS zones are.
Yes, and you and I will be spectating as fans for next week's race, as we are both going through some pretty significant life moments in the upcoming week. Can I disclose yours as well as mine?
Yeah, I'm getting a house and should be moving within the next 2 weeks, so I got to move the rig, move the whole stream setup. That's going to be fun. Hopefully that happens the weekend after Vegas so that we have time, because I think we would return for Abu Dhabi after that, but there's Thanksgiving week, so I think there might be a gap. So we should be good.
We'll be gone for a couple of weeks here for Division 1 as well. But I will be celebrating my 27th birthday on the 16th. So wonderful there. But that means we will not be broadcasting any of the races next week. So please head to the MidWest eSports channel and wherever you find your races, one of the other wonderful broadcast channels will be broadcasting the coverage of D1 action next week from Vegas with those brand new Ferrari liveries. We'll see if any other teams follow suit. But yeah, very exciting. The anticipation for the Vegas Grand Prix is building, even though it might be a very boring one-off race that no one really cares about. The spectacle is definitely where it's at, and that stage is set for a wonderful time. With that, thank you very much to all of our YouTube members who have a monthly subscription to Nick and Mitch, who keep the lights on here on the channel and give us all of these wonderful templates and different things like the motion array templates that we built the brand new intros out of. So thank you very much to those executive producers Bone Crusher 2D, Coach 34, and Mama Bell, along with co-producers Captain Snowbeard and Kill of Vapa and Kirsten, and our fans and Fans Plus. All off the top of the head, baby. Let's go. I know my people. I know my members.
Your memory never ceases to amaze me. I'm always scrambling to look those up at the last minute. But if you become a member, it helps support the channel. We put it into all of the assets that we do to make our intros, our transitions, the music, the everything. And you get cool stuff like early access to the show, sneak peeks to some of our edits and intros, emojis and badges. And if you do it while we're streaming, you'll get a pop-up from our race engineer with the French accent. And then if you don't become a member, you can also just subscribe and you'll get a pop-up as well too. And we always appreciate seeing those.
Yes, once again, we will be back broadcasting one of the Midwest racing divisions on the 30th of November from Abu Dhabi. But subscribe, stay up to date, and you will get notifications whenever we do go live in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, Mitch. Congratulations on the house. Good
Happy
luck
birthday.
Thank you very much.
Your present's coming soon.
Hey, thank you. And everybody, enjoy the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend. Enjoy Thanksgiving if you are in the States. Be safe, be happy, be healthy. We love you. Y'all are a part of this family now, whether you like it or not. From Nick, from Mitch, thank you very much. Happy holidays. Stay safe. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Sorry, that was not our formal closeout. I'm Nick.
I'm Mitch.
And we'll see you in Abu Dhabi. Good night.